Behind the Brand features the people who are making things happen. Get the insight to grow your biz from experts who've done it. Get behind the brand.
Hi, I'm Brian Elliott. Welcome to another edition of Behind the Brand. Today I'm here with Julian Smith, co-author of the New York Times best-selling book, Trust Agents. Julian, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me.
All right. So tell us what's going on with you. What's new? We're here on the show floor of Blog World, talking about new media and all this stuff, but what are you up to?
Here, there's a lot of stuff going on. I feel like finally this movement is becoming something very big and almost uncontrollable. So we've both been here, Brian, for like a really long time, so we have a chance to be able to really be at the top of the space. You know, the things that we're doing are being seen more and more often, so whether it be a book that I'm working on or whether it be anything, the visibility has never been bigger, so it's kind of an exciting place to be.
Now, are you writing any new books after Trust Agents?
I have 2 books that I'm working on. One is completed and should be out next month by the time this is probably published, maybe. And it is a work with the Domino Project that I am not allowed to talk about. And then I have another book that I'm working on with a co-author of my previous book, Chris Brogan. And the tentative title, well, there's a few, but the idea is, in an environment where everyone has access to media, how do you make sure that the media that you make is worthy of obtaining attention in an environment that is so competitive?
I think that's a pretty relevant term. So, people who watch the show are entrepreneurs, business owner, other marketing peeps, and they're really trying to figure out how this all works. They want to be successful. Content is king, but it's sort of no longer king, is it? I mean, it's not just good enough to produce content. Talk to us about your thoughts.
Well, I mean, so it's so obvious at this point that some of the best ideas that you have, when not given enough, sunlight, will simply die, whereas some of the stupidest ideas you have could succeed beyond your wildest dreams, and you put no effort into them, and so that, first of all, that's a very frustrating sort of. We don't really understand how the equation works. If a machine should have input and output, you should be able to put something in consistently and get the same output every single time. That's not the way this machine works at all.
It's somewhat of a serendipity engine, isn't it?
A little bit. Yeah, you could say that, sure. And so really it's about understanding why it is that people spread things out. But what we want to understand in sort of this space is this idea of, first of all, our ideas are simply, we have to come to grips with the fact that our ideas are simply not refined enough anymore. We used to be able to, in a world with 3 channels or 30 channels or even 100 channels, there's a limited access to what it is that we have to pay attention to.
Right.
Now we pay attention to the best stories, things on HBO or AMC or what have you, because they are the best stories. And we do not know how to convey those properly. We haven't been trained to do it. We don't really have a storytelling methodology that people in business know. And so we need to be very rigorous with our idea process. That's part of it. Really being like, is the stuff that I do really, really boring? Is it kind of boring? This is almost like 90% of what we make, and this is why these things die. And then after that, we can work on the rest of the thing, getting attention, getting audience, etc. If your ideas are boring, then work on that for a long time.
So do you think business people can take a page out of Hollywood's playbook? Because telling a story has become somewhat formulaic. And there's a great book that I love, one of my personal favorites, called Save the Cat. And Save the Cat, have you read it?
No, I haven't.
Okay,
yeah.
Brilliant book. It's supposed to be the last book you'll ever have to read on screenwriting. And it basically puts every story possibility into 10 or 11 possible slots.
Right.
And it's one, any story that you tell is one of these scenarios. And then it goes on to outline that if it's this scenario, then it needs to have these elements, or else it will fail.
You got it.
And there's a lot of classic movies that they mentioned that could have been so great.
Yeah.
Like Laura Croft Tomb Raider, for example. Big blockbuster movie, but complete dud because we could not really get behind the character. We never liked her,
Yeah.
She was attractive and all that, sure, but
But that doesn't mean anything.
Doesn't mean anything, yeah.
So you got to ask yourself, what does this do? First of all, from Hollywood's playbook, maybe not. We have a very we have a very formulaic understanding of how stories should work and what kind of people are interested in the stories that we are creating. But whether it's just being able to refine an idea and say, what is it that we really want to present, it's a little bit like a process of sharpening. Like you're looking, the reason that a toothpick is effective at what it does is because it's the sharpest possible object. Yeah. Anything else, we used to have some ideas thrown at us occasionally. Now we're constantly being bombarded by ideas and it's dulling us. Like literally just, I don't even care anymore. Like getting punched in the face over and over and over again. So what you need is an even sharper idea to come through and actually draw people's attention. So you notice that when you create content and you see some of it go wild simply because of the fact that it creates an authentic emotional reaction with people. So I think we need to go back to square one. That isn't about taking from Hollywood. I think you can go even back further and go to Joseph Campbell and talk about the hero's journey and the 12 steps of the hero's journey. And what does that mean? It's a fundamental storytelling structure that every mythology has. Like first of all, the boy has to go out of the world. He has to go find the sword. He has to go into the dark path. All of these different things. This is a natural storytelling device, and we can use it even in business, or we can use other tools in business to really say, what is it that I am trying to say? And many people simply haven't thought about it in such a profound way. They need to, in order to survive, because they need attention. And in order to get attention, what their message is has to be strong.
So let's talk a little bit more tactical then. So then, what can these folks do specifically? Give us some tactics. Mm-hmm. Should they be using video, for example? Should they even care about some of these social platforms? Is it about blogging?
The experimentation process is really important, but we can't go about anymore and just say, well, I'm going to go on Twitter and naturally attention will happen. So this, first of all, being very rigorous and honest with yourself is a big part of what it is that you have to be doing. But it's not the only one. I think anybody who's looking at this and who's saying, what is it that I can do, is they need to be able to think and go, can I have this conversation with someone at a party? Would they be asleep or interested?
Yeah.
They can. Honestly, I'm not even kidding when I say this. I say this with a lot of honesty. You should get drunk, find the funniest possible story, whatever makes you laugh when you're lying on the floor with your friends or your business partners or what have you, and then that becomes the thing that you're going to be talking about. This is how, there's an amazing commercial for Dermablend that it's been spread around recently, and I'm sure some of the people who's watching this have seen it. It's a guy who's just, Dermablend is sort of a makeup and a tattoo cover. And what happens is it's a dude who's just sitting there, and you could see him gradually taking off the makeup and revealing this giant skeleton underneath, which he's 80% covered in tattoos. And when you're watching this, you're just like, what's happening? You don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
It contains all these elements of mystery. It contains a genuine surprise. We can go back to books like Made to Stick. Made to Stick has a formula, and we should be looking towards formulas and also looking to some kind of outsider perspective and going, is what I'm doing interesting? Is it compelling? Is it hitting people in the right way? And that self-examination process is maybe the first thing that people need to be doing. Having an outsider perspective, having someone else look at what they're doing and going, is this right or wrong?
So what's the natural result or function of that? So someone asks you, okay, great, I've got great content, but what's the point?
What's the point?
What's the function of that? What fruits will that bear? How will that yield?
Right. Yeah. So imagine this is a marketplace. This every time that we spread out an idea, we're in a marketplace where everyone is attempting to grab attention. And there are many mistakes that people make. Even if their idea is strong enough, even if it does get attention, being able to capture people afterwards is a whole other thing. Being cohesive about what it is you want to talk about. So the way we've divided the next book that we're talking about is we've divided into a kind of, first of all, an equation for being able to see where am I missing in the media that I'm creating. What part am I missing? Is my trust low? Is my reach high or low? Is the contrast with the environment? Am I doing what other people are doing, or am I doing something that is different than other people? All of these things that need to be examined almost on a qualitative basis. Social media has been, for a long time, all about hugs and love and kisses, and I think we need to get away from that in a really dramatic way, because there was a time, And in a way, trust agents was maybe partially responsible for saying, just get on there and everything will be fine. It'll be magic and awesome. You'll be a superhero. You'll make $1 million. Your wife will love you. But the reality is that it's an ecosystem.
Yeah.
And the more people are inside the ecosystem attempting to spread things, the more competitive it becomes. And we're now in a place where it's almost like a forge, like the pressure is so intense that it can really almost destroy what it is that you're doing. More competitive than it's ever been. So we need to get stronger and stronger and stronger and accept the challenges that are coming at us every day. I mean, the interesting part about trust, it was very well structured and thought out by people previous to us. So one example of that is a great book called The Trusted Advisor. Trusted Advisor was written by David Macer and Charlie Green. They came up with an equation about trust. It's a similar situation to what we find on the social web today, which is that we have these soft messages and say it's about community and engagement, but really we need to be more honest with ourselves and say, I'm not measuring this. I need to be measuring it. So they came up with an equation for trust, which goes as follows. Credibility, one big aspect of trust. How does it work? Credibility is, I am capable of doing what I say I can do. And then second one is reliability. Reliability is, I say I will be there, and then I will go there, and I will be there on time. So if I'm a professional, I say I can deliver this, and then I deliver it when I say I will, I am able to get the results.
You keep your promises.
Keep your promises, right.
Yep.
Reliability, everyone understands that. The third one, intimacy. Intimacy is a personal aspect. How vulnerable am I? When I'm vulnerable, other people feel like they can open up to me. If I put on this sort of this shell of perfectionism, then people will feel like I'm cold and I'm not human. And then the final element, which is a negative one, is self-orientation. The more I seem like a used car salesman, the more people will doubt my motives. So the first three, credibility, reliability, and intimacy, need to be quite high. And then the fourth one needs to be low. So you can see all examples of this. So you think of somebody like Gary Vaynerchuk, who's a friend of mine. And Gary is amazing he sells what he does so hard. He is high self-oriented. And the reason he's able to have high self-orientation and still be good at what he does is because his consistency is through the roof, his intimacy is through the roof, and his reliability is through the roof. All those things are high enough that the self-orientation does not cause a problem. So you got to think about it and go graph it out in a certain way and say, what am I missing? What am I strong at?
Yeah.
Rob Wolf was speaking at this conference yesterday, and I have to say by far the best person that I've seen here. He talks about the environment that we can apply this actually just exactly to the social space as well, because we talk about the space as being an environment that is toxic. So the food environment that we live in is a toxic environment, and so we can't really expect to have willpower when our brains and our bodies are wired to obtain sugar and fat as much as possible in order to survive in an environment where those two things are supposed to be scarce.
Yeah.
So this is a similar, you have to think about everything as being a reaction to it. Here we are in this space, and we think that the old things will work for us, but no. It's in fact like, because everything is an ecosystem and there are reactions to everything, you go, okay, this environment is changing. I was brought up and my successes were from 5 years ago in the web or something. Think back to what's going on now and the things that we're able to examine and look at and go, okay, this space is changing. What are the things that are interesting? What are the things that are uncool? This is a great. If something is really uncool right now, like the web used to be really uncool, think about that thing and go, okay, but in a few years, will that become common? And if it's common in 2 years, do it now.
Right.
Whatever the path is going down, the future is heading in a certain direction. Put yourself at the crossroads of that thing immediately. And so that way you'll be prepared for when it actually happens much faster than most people.
Well, we've been spending a few minutes with best-selling author Julian Smith. Julian, thanks so much for joining us on the show.
Thanks for having me. I had fun.
Appreciate it.